React Native versus Flutter, 5 factors SMBs should weigh in 2026. Welcome back. Today's topic is React Native versus Flutter, 5 factors SMBs should weigh in 2026. We'll cover what you actually need to know about React Native versus Flutter for SMBs 2026. Next up, moving on to why the React Native versus Flutter decision matters more in 2026. The cross-platform mobile development landscape shifted noticeably in 2025. React Native completed its new architecture rollout, introducing the JavaScript interface and Fabric renderer, which closed much of the performance gap it previously had with Flutter. Meanwhile, Flutter 3.x reached a level of production stability that even risk-averse enterprise teams started accepting. For SMBs, this timing matters. You're no longer choosing between a mature framework and an uncertain one. Both are production ready in 2026. The question is which one fits your team's skills, your cloud stack, and your budget constraints. According to the Stack Overflow Developer Survey 2024, React Native usage among professional developers sat at approximately 9%, compared to Flutter at roughly 9.1%, effectively tied for the first time. A few years ago, React Native's larger community was a clear differentiator. Today, that gap has mostly closed, which means the old default answer of just use React Native because more developers know it no longer holds. Next up, let's talk about Factor 1, performance. What the numbers actually mean for SMBs. Flutter uses compiled Dart code and its own rendering engine. It draws every pixel itself rather than deferring to native UI components. The result is consistent frame rates and fewer rendering surprises across iOS and Android. React Native, with its new architecture, now uses JSI for direct synchronous communication with native modules, eliminating the old async bridge that caused stutters in earlier versions. For most SMB use cases, the performance difference in production is small enough that it won't show up in user reviews. Where Flutter has a real advantage: animation-heavy apps, custom UI components, and apps that need pixel-perfect consistency across both platforms. Where React Native holds up better: apps that need deep integration with native device modules or that sit next to existing JavaScript or TypeScript web code bases. Now, next up, Factor 2, React Native versus Flutter development cost for SMBs. Development cost comes down to 3 things: hourly rates, team size, and how fast the team can move. Developer rates in 2026. The rates are nearly identical. Flutter developers are marginally less expensive in some markets because the senior talent pool is smaller, but the gap is closing fast. Next up, Factor 3, hiring. Which framework gives SMBs more developer options? This is the factor most technical guides skip, and it's often the one that determines project success for SMBs operating with tight headcount. React Native has a deeper talent pool for one simple reason: JavaScript developers are the most common category in the market. The Stack Overflow Developer Survey has ranked JavaScript as the most commonly used language for 12 consecutive years. Any mid-level JavaScript or TypeScript developer can become a productive React Native developer with a few weeks of ramp-up. Flutter developers are growing but remain a smaller subset. Senior Flutter developers with 3+ years of production Dart experience are genuinely hard to find outside major tech hubs, and they command a premium. If you're hiring for mobile app framework comparison 2026 skills in a secondary market, React Native gives you more candidates to screen. Next up, Factor 4, long-term support and framework viability. Both frameworks have strong backing. React Native is maintained by Meta. Flutter is maintained by Google. Neither is going away in the near term, but each carries a distinct risk profile worth understanding before you commit. React Native's main risk is fragmentation. Because it bridges JavaScript to native platform APIs, any iOS or Android breaking change can create downstream issues across libraries and dependencies. The community patches these gaps quickly in most cases, but there's a real maintenance tax over a 3 to 5 year app lifecycle. Plan for roughly 10 to 15% of your annual dev budget going to dependency updates and platform compatibility fixes. Flutter's risk is different. Dart is a Google-maintained language with minimal use outside of Flutter. If Google were to deprioritize Flutter, migration would be painful. That said, Flutter's production adoption has grown fast enough that Google has strong commercial incentive to maintain it long-term. Next up, now, Factor 5, Backend Integration for SMBs. React Native versus Flutter on Azure. Most SMB apps connect to CRMs, ERPs, payment gateways, and cloud backends. For teams running on Microsoft Azure, this factor deserves specific attention when making your mobile app framework comparison for 2026. React Native benefits from the broader JavaScript and TypeScript Azure SDK community. Packages like and work directly in React Native with minimal configuration. Azure App Service, Azure Functions, and Azure API Management all have straightforward integration paths from a JavaScript or TypeScript client. Flutter's Azure integrations are primarily community-maintained. There are Dart wrappers for common Azure services, but official SDK support lags behind the JavaScript equivalents. MSAL authentication for Flutter requires third-party packages rather than an official Microsoft library, which adds maintenance risk when Microsoft updates its auth protocols. Let's talk about moving on to how to make the final call for your SMB. After weighing these 5 factors, most SMBs land clearly in one of 2 groups. Choose React Native if. Choose Flutter if. Now, next up, conclusion. The React Native versus Flutter for SMBs in 2026 decision doesn't have a universal answer, but it does have a correct answer for your specific situation. Performance is close enough that it shouldn't drive the decision. Development cost is nearly identical between the 2 frameworks. The real differentiators are your team's current skills, your hiring market access, and how tightly you need to integrate with Azure backend services. If your developers know JavaScript, start with React Native. If you're building something visually distinctive and your team can invest the ramp-up time in Dart, Flutter is worth it. If you're unsure whether you need a custom mobile app at all, answer that question before picking a framework. The mobile framework is rarely the make or break decision in an SMB app project. Backend architecture, user experience design, and the long-term maintenance plan matter more. Get those right and either React Native or Flutter will serve you well through 2026 and beyond. Ready to evaluate your options? Our team at Q Services works with SMBs on mobile app strategy and Azure integration. Reach out to talk through your specific requirements.